Oh man, God, dog it, I love that song. I could just vibe to that all stinking day long. That's my jam. And this is my Boombox 3 from JBL. So about 3 months ago, actually on the 14th of December, it was 3 months since I launched the first video of the JBL Boombox 3. And I'll tell you, man, ain't a whole lot changed, but because you guys love JBL as much as I do, I figured I'd do a JBL Boombox 3 months later. Is this speaker still like the bomb? Is it still the best speaker I own? Do I still love it? Do I have any buyer's remorse? What's been my experience in real life? Because as I've said before, this is not my home, okay? This is a YouTube studio that I have created, okay, to do YouTube videos in. And what that means to you is this is a controlled environment, okay? There's sound dampening materials, there's artificial lighting in here, and everything is just, it is what it is. Every single day, it is the exact same environment. So what that means is when I take these speakers and I put them out, maybe by my pool or something like that, I put it out there for a reason. So you can actually see and hear what it's like in a real world environment and not just my studio. But that's only there doing that particular test. But what's it like actually owning this thing after 3 months? You spend $500, right? That's a lot of $1 bills. You know what kind of time you could have in a specific type of club with $500? I'm just messing with you, dog. I'm just saying, though, $500 is a lot of money. So you spend it on your Boombox 3, right? Or you're contemplating. I'm gonna go ahead and spoil the video and say I would do it all over again. I freaking love this speaker. I mean, look at the build quality of this thing. The Boombox 1 and Boombox 2 were built pretty much the same with the exception of the handle. The handle is plastic in those other two. I don't know if there's some metal underneath that plastic, but this one is exposed metal, okay? So when you put it out in the sun, it will get hot. Too hot to the touch, as a matter of fact. And when you put it out in the cold, it will get cold. So don't be sticking your tongue up against this thing in the winter because you'll be stuck frozen that thing. And that's a dumb idea. But the build quality of all JBL products, in my opinion, have been nothing less than stellar. They are some of the best built speakers I've ever held in my hands. But what do they sound like over time as you've conditioned those radiators? And this one has a dedicated subwoofer, and it has the two dynamic drivers and the two tweeters, I should say. So it has all of this. It's actually, for all intents and purposes, it is a speaker system. The rest of them are more just Bluetooth speakers, in my opinion. You know, they usually have some passive radiators, and then they have some dynamic drivers and probably some tweeters, depending on what price bracket you're in or how big that jam box or boom box is or speaker is. But this one has 5 drivers. You got your 2 tweeters, 2 dynamic drivers, and 1 dedicated subwoofer. That makes 5, and then you got your passive radiator. So what does it sound like after 3 months of use? Well, I'm gonna tell you a little story about last weekend when I went to my brother-in-law's house. There was a little Christmas get-together. We decided to go, and as I was packing, I thought to myself, why not bring the JBL Boombox 3 just to brighten up the party a little bit? So I pack it in the trunk. I got a big trunk. You can fit some stuff in that trunk. So I wasn't worried about how much space this thing would take up. What I was worried about is just having extra luggage because I usually don't pack gigantic Bluetooth speakers with me. But it didn't take up so much space to where I couldn't pack in my wife's stuff and my stuff and my gigantic dog stuff in the back of the trunk. It just kind of tucked away back there without causing any ruckus. So in regards to its size, you're not gonna have to worry too much about how much room this thing takes up, provided you do have the room, like in a trunk or, you know, or in the back of your SUV or something like that if you're taking it to a friend's house or, you know, something of that sort. But the weight of this thing has gotten to me a couple of times because my current situation is this. I have a little tendonitis in my left bicep and my shoulder, and, you know, picking it up one-handed and, you know, just doing stuff like I normally do, this 15 pounds worth of boom right here has actually impacted my tendonitis. So I got to carry it around with my right arm, which is, you know, it's not a big deal, but it is 15 pounds worth of speaker connected to a handle. So that might get to some people. So I figured I'd just throw that out there for you. Now we can get to the main focus of this video, which is going to be battery life and sound quality. You got classic JBL sound quality here. When I took it to the party, fired this bad boy up, and we were playing a lot of 80s music, right? Where it would be like old school hip hop, that party hip hop. Then, you know, you got a little George Michael in there. Who else was it? Oh man, the dude with all the funny hair. Boy George, yeah. You gotta love you some Boy George, you know what I'm saying? Like the 80s pop and hip hop, man. It was a nice little mix. We had going some Hall & Oates. What y'all know about Hall & Oates? Some boys, they got a lot of hits. But we were jamming that music. And what I really enjoyed about hearing this is what people had to say about hearing it, because everybody else was like, all right, he's got his speaker here, because, you know, I'm kind of the tech guy. I mounted it up right next to the TV and just hit play on my phone. I walked around the whole house with my phone in my pocket. The music never cut out or anything like that, but everybody was really just impressed with the sound quality, because they were hearing like the mid-tones and the treble. Nobody was actually referring to the sound in the way I am when we talk about mid-tones and treble and stuff like that, but they were just saying, dang, that sounds good. You can hear the bass from way over here, and like I can feel it. I'm leaning up against the wall and I can hear the bass. So the people at the party were really astounded by the sound quality that came out of this thing. They just weren't getting all technical with what they were hearing. So just like everybody else, I was impressed too. I'm always impressed every time I turn on this speaker. But the thing that impresses me the most about the JBL Boombox 3 is the separation of sound. Now I know in the Boombox 2 you got your two tweeters and then your two mid-range, and those mid-range produce all the bass and everything, and the tweeters are tweeting. But in this one, like I said, you got a speaker system, so you do hear a lot more separation in sound, i.e. sound stage. It just comes out there, it just goes out there into the space, and then it satisfies your ear holes. Hearing that sound separation combined with the bass that I heard and felt while we were listening to it, it just made that experience that much better. Now let's get into the conversation of the battery life. That's another great thing about this speaker. Over the span of time I've been using it, it's actually lived in my garage and kind of like out on my back patio just for doing stuff. If I'm doing stuff around the yard, or if I'm working out in the garage, or like in the garage working, this is the speaker that I have turned on. This is the go-to speaker for that, and that's where it lives. It kind of just lives outdoors and in the garage. And at the beginning of the month of December, I actually used it to put up my Christmas decorations over a 2-day span. Yes, we put up that many Christmas decorations. So over that 2-day span, what I would do is just kind of plant it in one section of the front yard and let it just project out towards my house. That way I wasn't disturbing my neighbors, because this thing really does perform extremely well outdoors. It projects sound so well. So I had it aimed at my house, and that way I could hear it no matter where I was, on the corner of the house, side of the house, or the front of the house. And it lasted over that 2-day period as far as the battery life goes. Previous to that, I did tell you I used it in the garage mainly for working out and just doing stuff outdoors and in the garage. And I think I've only actually charged this thing from pretty much 0 to 100 probably twice. You know what, I'm gonna throw in a third time just to be, you know, generous with the battery. But yeah, let's say 3 times over a 3-month period. Now, it doesn't mean I've been listening to it all day, every day over this last 3-month period, but as I've listened to it in short terms, like maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours here and there, you know, a couple times a week, I've only had to charge this thing up a total of about 3 times. Now, when we talk about having to recharge this thing over and over again, you have to bring into the conversation how loud you're listening to your music, because listening to your music at super high volumes is going to drain that battery drastically. I don't listen to music that loud, and that's where I start to talk about, you know, what we do on YouTube, okay? On YouTube, us YouTubers, we're guilty of it. We will crank these bad boys up well above 50% just to give you guys a taste of what we're getting here behind the camera or in front of the camera, so you can hear that sound sample. I don't normally listen to my music that loud. It's probably at 20–30%. That way I can just hear it throughout the room without, you know, disturbing myself, you know, because I just don't listen to my music that loud, man, and you probably shouldn't either. Appreciate the hearing you got and preserve the hearing you got. But should you work in a warehouse or a factory or something like that, you got to crank it up, okay? You got to crank it up, that way you can actually hear your music, and that's fine because you're already in this noisy ass environment, so crank the music up a little bit. But remember, that is going to drastically drain that battery and reduce your 24-hour battery life. Me, I'm a 20–30% listener, because the sound quality you get out of here at 20% is just as good as you would get at maybe a 70 or 80%. You don't miss out on anything. You know, like a lot of speakers, when you have them at low volume, all you get is boom coming out. The treble and the midtones don't really come out at lower volumes. And it's not until you crank it up a little bit, maybe to about 40 or 50%, where you get those voices and the instruments and the treble and the midtones are coming out at about 40 or 50%. And then as you turn it up higher, you start to hear screeching and the speaker just basically losing control of itself. That doesn't happen with the Boombox 3. This is a very controlled sound system that takes care of itself as you crank up that volume. So 3 months and $500, I would say yes, I'm still absolutely loving the JBL Boombox 3. I actively use it in my personal life. This isn't just something I purchased just to make videos with. This is my speaker. This is what I actually use. And I am really, really happy and satisfied with it. Now, I'm no expert in this kind of stuff, but what I do know is it's always a good time to be getting your jam on, baby. So y'all keep being good to each other, and I'll see you when I see you. Hit it!